Good morning. Welcome to Monday. Good morning, Danny. Good to see you here. Good morning to everyone who is joining us this beautiful Monday. Where are we going this week? I guess nowhere. I guess everywhere. I guess where we've always been. They're all legitimate answers. We could just pick whichever one we want and dive into it, and it will take us to the same place. If we want to go everywhere, if we want to go nowhere. Sounds like a Beatles song, doesn't it? I'm sure John and Paul could have written something great around that. But it's really the everywhere and the nowhere that we're awakening to. The fact that the everywhere and the nowhere are really the same where. The same place, the same thing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that coming from a slightly different direction in a moment, but I want to begin with our daily word, which I don't quite know yet how it's going to play into this, but I know it will somehow, because the everywhere and the nowhere are just the same. You know, we have someone here with us who is he is not a physicist himself, but he works with a lot of physicists at Stanford University, and he's been telling us these tales of I can't even begin to describe it, but these amazing things that we're going to be hearing more about here at Namaste. And is it tomorrow night? Tomorrow night we're going to do that. We'll figure it out. And yeah, but it's like the deeper you go into this, the closer the smaller it gets, the bigger it gets. And the more you realize you don't know, the more you see. Does that make sense? The more you realize you don't know, the more you're able to see and to realize. Okay, well, let's see where this takes us. I'm not really sure yet, but it'll be a grand experiment. But let me go ahead and bring up the daily word, and we'll begin there and see where that leads us. So today's daily word is, I do what is mine to do, and I trust all will be well. I do what is mine to do in every moment, while trusting that all will be well. So we'll sing this chant, then we'll pause and read a section of the daily word. Here we go. I do what is mine to do, and I trust all will be well. Join me in that. I do what is mine to do, and I trust all will be well. I do what is mine to do, and I trust all will be well. I do what is mine to do, and I trust all will be well. All will be well. Throughout my life, I have learned there is a time to work and a time to rest, just as there is a time to speak and a time to listen. I remember this truth if I find myself working relentlessly to make something happen. I do what is mine to do, and I trust all will be well. I do what is mine to do, and I trust There is a time for me to step back and exercise the faith and patience needed to give my efforts time to manifest. I trust this orderly process and let go and let God. I stop my attempts to control life, knowing that the divine is the very essence of life. I believe my highest good is on the way to me, and this makes it easier for me to be patient and trusting. I do what is mine to do, and I trust all will be well. I do what is mine to do, and I trust all will be well. All will be well. I do my part and then I relax, knowing the divine is in and through all things. I let go and I let God. I do what is mine to do, and I trust all will be well. I do what is mine to do, and I trust all will be well. All will be well. All will be well. All is well. So that's our jumping off point. I do what is mine to do. I'm beginning to realize there's not much for me to do. We might hear that and think, I'm going to do what's mine to do. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to work hard and I'm going to do everything that's mine. But in this surrendering, we begin to realize more and more there's not much to do. And it's only when I realize that I have the experience that all is well. Sure, if something is in front of me that calls to me and I'm guided, I do what's in front of me. But I'm finding that the more I surrender and allow grace to take hold, the less there is in front of me. The less there is to do and the more there is to be. So, our friend Gary, who's sitting here in front of me, has been telling me since yesterday, mentioned it yesterday at breakfast and then again this morning at breakfast, about a quote from Einstein, where he talked about someone else named Spinoza. I'd never heard this before. And I guess Einstein had been asked if he believed in God, and he said that he believes in the God of Spinoza. So I was curious about that. What or who is the God of Spinoza? So I did look it up right before session, and I can just share this one little bit. So, Einstein said that he believed in a pantheism, or a theological doctrine based on the work of the 17th century philosopher Baruch Spinoza. So what does that mean? It goes on to say, throughout the course of his life, physicist Albert Einstein, the publisher of the theory of relativity, affirmed his belief in pantheism, which is we already heard that. Okay. He said, I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the lawful harmony, in the harmony of the world, or the harmony of everything. Not in a God who concerns himself with the fate and the doings of mankind. Not a God that concerns himself with the fates and the doings of mankind. In other words, not a personalized deity. And when we were at breakfast this morning, we talked a little bit about the importance, the critical importance, as quickly as possible. If we want to have a true experience, we have to move past thinking about God as a personalized deity, a God out there. Why? Because we have to stop thinking of ourselves as an identity. And as long as we make God the ultimate an identity, a being, a person, we personalize ourselves. And that's the problem. We identify with our littleness, with our personhood, that which believes it to be separate, and we make an idol of a God that is the ultimate in separation. This ultimate being separate from me, judging me, watching over me, concerned about me. I hate to tell you, but God doesn't know you're here. God doesn't know you're here. In other words, the you that you think you are. So, the journey really begins with the surrendering of my thoughts and my concepts of God. That's a big deal, because for most of us, our entire lives, we've been taught through religion and spiritual practices that we have to honor God, that we have to believe in God. And what we're hearing now is that what you've been believing in is not real, is not there. There is no God out there for you to believe in. And the quicker you get that, the quicker you can get that God is not out there, but God is everywhere. There is nothing but that. God is just another word. Well, okay, let's begin with what Richard Rohr says, who likes to say that Christ is another word for everything. And we'll add to that, God is another word for everywhere. Now we're getting close to that which we can never really approach, because it's everywhere. You can't get closer to something that is everywhere. All you can do is experience the everywhere and the everything. And this is why over and over again, all we really talk about here is the opening to the experience. Stop trying to get this with your mind. You're not going to. It's the mind that is constantly trying to put God or reality or whatever you want to call it out there so I can worship. Now, you also know that I am a proponent of, I'll say, adoration, of bhakti, of devotion to the beloved. But there's a big difference between devotion to a beloved that is somewhere and devotion to the beloved that is everywhere. Because if I'm only devoted to the beloved that is somewhere, I have to identify where that somewhere is. Somewhere is in the sky. Somewhere is in a heaven that I cannot reach right now. Somewhere is somewhere. But if it's everywhere, if the beloved is everywhere and my adoration, my devotion is to the everywhere of the beloved, then the beloved is right here, and the beloved is right here, and the beloved is in whoever I'm standing in front of, and whatever is standing in front of me, and whatever is happening to me. You see how now the personalized God breaks down, and in allowing that, the personalized self breaks down. There begins to become more space between my thoughts. Just ask Jeff. He'll tell you. More and more space. I can't hold it together like I once did. And when that begins to happen, for many of us, there's a little bit of fear that begins to creep in, because everything I thought I was is suddenly challenged. And the way that I maintain what I thought I was by trying to hold the thoughts together of what I believe myself to be. I am a man. I am living in Mexico. I am a musician. I am a writer, blah, blah. All these definitions, all of these thoughts and ideas and concepts, I want them to be tight. The tighter they are, the better. Because it makes for a tight identity, a tight so-called reality. But what happens when we begin to devote ourselves to the beloved that is everywhere and in everything? That tightness begins to relax. My thoughts begin to drift further and further away. And I find myself just in this moment of openness and grace, where I can no longer identify myself as I once did, as a separate being separate. As a separate being separate. Suddenly, in this experience, I'm able just to dissolve. And this is really what every spiritual path, I want to differentiate religious path from spiritual path. This is what every spiritual path is leading us into, that dissolving. And as I said before, that at the beginning especially can be scary until you just relax into it. You feel like you're losing something. You're losing your identity. You're losing who you thought you were. Anybody experience that? I know Jeff does. And you have as well, whether every single one of us begins to experience that, but usually what we do is we try and snap it back into place. Like, hold on. Don't go anywhere quite yet. I'm not done with you, meaning my identity, meaning my person. So I'm now going to just keep God out there somewhere. God is a being wherever God is. And as long as God is out there, I'm safe. As long as God is separate from me somewhere, it doesn't even matter where, I am safe because God is a being. God is personalized. And that gives relevance to my person. But you can't stay there. You can't do it forever. Why? Because this is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. This dissolving of the self into the experience. Well, we've used the example before of the salt body. Imagine yourself being this little doll or made out of salt that is right there at the shore where the waves lap against it over and over. Every time a wave comes, just a little bit more is dissolved. And that little salt person can be very threatened by this because it thinks it's disappearing. No, it's not disappearing, it's merging. It's dissolving into all that is. So I was thinking about this in light of the quote that Gary shared with me, and that we hear so many other places. I said that it is not a religious context, but there are many people who are so-called religious who say the same thing. Just let that gentle dissolving happen. Don't resist it. Don't hold back. Just let it be what it is. And then you'll realize that you are what you are and who you've always been, who you can't stop being. It's really quite simple. So now, I'm going to turn it over to Vicki and see where she can take this
Turn your
Full
sound down.
experience. Good morning there, Victoria.
Morning, Brother James. Yeah, that's you. We're in a hotel room, but
Ah,
there's not two seats. So here we are. So I always liked that Spinoza article. You talked about it, I think, a few months ago in another context. But so this brings up, my first thought: ET phone home. ET phone home. This is not about a goal, a relentless effort, or fulfillment of some identity in any outside manner. It's about contact. ET phone home. It's about making contact, but it isn't just making contact. And I loved last week's emphasis on gentleness that we ended with, because making contact is a way of staying gently present to the God of everything and nowhere and all where and nothing where and all of that. It's the contact that we find ourselves falling into, and then being carried through our day, literally by grace, from whatever doings that may be ours to do. Whatever is given us to do, it comes to us along with the means to do it if we keep contact within. If I lose that contact, I immediately slip into effort and to a goal of doing or fulfilling some obligation or something I think is important that I need to be or give or do. And all of those, even the ones about giving, oh, I should give this, I should help that, all of those are spiritual bypasses to simply make contact and live in the contact. Make contact, live in the contact, and be here happily. What is ours to do is given to us, and we can't miss it because it's right where our feet are. It's right where we're stepping. So step gently so we maintain contact. The only effort that I find, and it's an effort to keep contact. I can lose contact in a nanosecond. It's like I can lose it in a blink. The way to keep contact is to keep that gentle focus. Contact is not the goal, it's the way. And then all the goals that are given us to do get fulfilled, or not in the way we thought they should be. Maybe the not fulfilling of them that was the most helpful. We don't know. But contact, keeping contact is the way. Keeping that inner contact, that's the compass, that's the direction, that's the fulfillment. And that's, for me, that's where happiness comes from, not from some outside fulfillment or even any identity. Just, oh, I was telling Teddy this morning, a few months ago, if you told me I was going to live in an apartment, I would have laughed and said, oh no, that'll be some experience. And it would have, it just would have been a horrible idea to me. But the minute it showed up, oops, I recognized that's this place we're supposed to go. And I knew it from the picture on the phone, not even from getting there, because the happiness wasn't coming from the form of, oh, we're going to live in an apartment. It was coming from, this is contact. This is the information contact is supplying for this moment. And the happiness of being in the contact, no matter what it shows up as, is what true happiness is, that cannot be threatened. So we were talking about that today. So I can't believe I have so much fun at this little apartment. Oh, we're not in it now, but because it's from contact. Let our lives flow from direct contact, gentle contact, resting. When we lose it, so what? Rest right back into it. When we see we're relentlessly seeking some goal, so what? Slip right back into resting to make contact again. Thank
so
you, Brother James.
so what? I love those two words. And effortless contact, gentle contact. We've used the analogy before of being a teenager and just holding the phone to your ear, not saying a word while the beloved or your new girlfriend or boyfriend is on the other side, and you're just feeling their presence. You don't need to say anything. Of course, your little sister's yelling to get off the phone because someone, back in the day when there was only one phone in the house. But that's I like that image of effortless contact. I'm just holding the presence. I'm being present to the presence. And, and like you said, we're going to slip out of it 10 times a minute. And that's okay. Just slip back. Just keep your focus as much as you can on the beloved or on love, or it doesn't even matter what concept you use, but just be present to that divine presence. Teddy, why don't you take it from there?
Well, this is whatever you put. You better turn it down.
Okay, so
Oh, it is? Okay.
I'll leave.
So, when I was growing up in Greenwich Village as a kid, I walked past a place called Bleecker Street Records, and I heard this sound coming out, and it was the birds. And that literally changed my life. So I put a song up by the birds, and it says, to everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven. And that's exactly what the unity message was saying today. There's a time for everything, a time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn. And when you understand that, you got the flow. And, thank God I've had the experience of what you're talking about God not be. God is not a being. God is being. Period.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I like
That's
that.
all I can say. God is being. And if we're being with God as one with God because he is everything. We can say he's nothing as long as it's total. As long as it's all there is, it's right. That's all I can say. But listen to the birds do turn, 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 and you'll have it all. That's all I can say.
Well, you said it all when you said that God is not a being, God is being itself. It is the essence of all being. And being, like if you look at the word being, it is like it is. You have being and then you have non-being. Non-being is not, being is. So God is the great isness of the universe. But it cannot be identified as here or there, because as soon as you identify it as a being, that being must be somewhere. And that it cannot be everywhere. But being itself, beingness, is all there is. And these thoughts are concepts, but they're at least concepts that begin to unravel the mind, unravel all of those other ideas. So everything we're saying, none of it's true. None of it's really true, because even those are concepts, but they're perhaps useful concepts because they begin to undo all of the other concepts that are trying to hold those thoughts in place, hold my being, my human being in place. Just let them dissolve. We don't really need them. So I'm sitting here looking at Alice, and I'm just feeling that there's something that's going to move through Alice as well here this morning that will be of great value. So Alice, good. I think it's afternoon for you. So
It
do you have
is.
anything you'd like
It
to
is.
share?
It's 4:30 in the afternoon. Ah, God is not a being. God is being. And we are being. I don't even know if I like the word with, in that being. I love the simple words, God is not a being. That changes any kind of projection. That changes any kind of personification of God in our way of looking at things. We can turn that around and we can look at ourselves from the being of God. Now, if I do that right now, if I turn my sight not from my sight, but from the divine sight, the being sight. I don't see myself separate from anything. Absolutely nothing. I'm just one in that being with you right now, being with all of you right now. Let go, let God, let go of anything that is in the way of seeing ourselves from the sight of the divine. That's what I've been getting from this today. And also just the presence of let go and let God. I mean, that's an old saying. We all have said that in one way or another. But when you really embody that, let go. In other words, we're controlling all the time. And, I can see in these days, in these weeks recently, Brother James, how you've been letting go. How you've been letting go. I can feel you're letting go in the being. Letting go. And any kind of control that we think we have, we just don't need it. And there's something in the air. There's definitely something in the air about just being. It's about time too, or about no time. So, yes, God is not a being. God is being, and we are being with that being. But even with is a word that doesn't even necessarily have to be there. There. Here.
Thank you, Alice. Keeps coming back to the same place. Let go. That's all we need, really, from today's daily word. Let go. It's like we're holding on to this little branch, afraid just to drop into the arms of grace. And all the while, that inner spirit is saying, just let go. Let go of the fear of what's going to happen when you let go. Are you going to fall? Are you going to hurt yourself? No, you're not. This is where it all begins, when we let go and let God. And when you let go of your idea of God, there is no God out there. There is only God everywhere. And in everyone, and in everything, and in every moment, and every blah, blah. We could just go on forever. And once again, these are also concepts, but they have some usefulness to them. Because these concepts that we're sharing today, that, for example, that God is not a being. God is being itself. That's a concept that helps us to release that resistance that we feel, to just dissolve. Just relax and surrender. Let it happen. This experience that we talk about here every day is wanting to happen through and as you. And it will, the moment you just relax into it. Surrender, Dorothy. There you have it. So thanks to all of you, Teddy, Vicky, Alice, and each and every single one of you. This is a good way to begin our week. Just the focus of letting go. Not focusing on something that's out there, but something that is always so intimate, closer than your very breath. Just allow that to be true and dissolve. And the rest will happen on its own. So, blessings to all of you. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the prayer of protection, and we'll share that here at the very end. And of course, as we share our prayer of protection, we also let any prayers that are in our hearts, any petitions, anyone that we're praying for. Linda Flock, I know, is someone many of us have been focused focusing our prayers on, and anyone else in your life that is calling forth this experience. Let's include them in this prayer. Here we go. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so it is. Namaste, everyone. Have a beautiful day.